Hello everybody, my name is KingStix. In this video, I'm going to be showing you 4 of the strongest clear paths in the jungle. Now, in this first clip, I'm going to be showing you what used to be the standard. The standard clear before patch 8.10 was buff, camp, buff, or camp, buff, buff. As long as you did 2 buffs in 1 camp, you were going to get level 3, and then you typically go into the river, fight for scuttle, and gank a lane. Now, this is no longer possible in patch 8.10. They nerfed the jungle camp's experience and they buffed the scuttles, so it changed things up and what your path is going to look like. The moral of the story is you no longer want to do buff, camp, buff. You aren't going to be getting level 3. It's not a good path. It's a waste of time. The first OP jungle path for quick LP is a very cheesy one. This is why junglers who are strong at level 2 like Graves and Xin Zhao are so powerful, because they have more options. They can go immediately for a scuttle and not have to worry about the enemy jungler, because even if the enemy jungler does show up because they're a fool, you can pwn them. So start off getting your red buff and then immediately go for the scuttle crab. Now this won't give you level 3 or anything like that, but it will give you a lot of experience, plus the scuttle crab will heal you. Bear in mind, I didn't get a leash in this scenario, so I would normally have a lot more HP than this, plus I do still have my smite. If the enemy jungler would have started on their blue buff, they might come for this, but I could easily destroy them. You should be able to tell by looking on the minimap and seeing if the enemy bot laners have used any mana, or if they're missing health, or if they get to lane later. That's usually how you can tell where the enemy jungler started. After red buff and scuttle, you can go for the gank if you're playing a champion like Xin Zhao and Graves, since you have a gap closer. Xin Zhao has a gap closer and a knockup. Graves is just highly mobile with his dash, plus the red buff gives him enough CC. Assuming you do get a kill and you leech 1 or 2 minions worth of XP, you should be level 3 at this point. If I had real laners, it would have been much easier to get this kill. I would have taken less damage. Now I can just run through my scuttle, go mid, gank mid if I want, or I can cross over through the mid lane and go straight to my blue or the other scuttle. If I don't think the enemy jungler started at his blue buff right now, what I'd probably do is go straight to his blue buff, because if he started on his red buff and he saw me gank bot, he's probably going to take my blue buff and I won't be elo to get there in time. So by going straight to his blue buff after that gank, I can make back my experience and gold that I would have lost from getting counter jungled. This strategy is mainly for things in lower elo like D5 and lower. However, it can still work in higher elo if your support is something like a Blitzcrank or a Thresh, because after you land your slow, it'll make them really easy for them to land their hook, and that's a guaranteed kill at that point when it's 3v2. This second OP jungle clear is typically what you want to use when you're playing a power farm jungler like Udyr or Master Yi. Even Kayn for that matter. Blue buff is a really low damage camp. Really any champion in the game can solo it. I'd highly recommend having your top laner not leashing if you could, because if he does leash, odds are the enemy team's going to figure out where you started. After you finish taking your blue buff, don't go for scuttle, run immediately for the enemy team's Krugs. These are going to give you loads of experience and gold. Now, if the enemy started on their red buff, this strategy won't work, because if they go to their Krugs, they're going to be in big trouble. Typically though, junglers start with their bot laner, so odds are that the enemy jungler started on his blue buff, and even if he did go straight from blue buff to red, there's no way he's going to be able to get to you on his Krugs before you finish taking them, so you should be in the clear. Right now, Krugs give the most experience out of any camp. For you to get level 3 after doing Krugs, you're going to want to take most of them. You can leave up to 4 little ones though and still be able to get your level 3 after Scuttle. So now after Krugs, we're going to go for Scuttle to get our level 3. And then we're just going to do a power clear through our whole jungle moving south. So after Scuttle, we're going to go to Gromp, Wolves, Raptors, Red, then our own golems, assuming the enemy jungler doesn't know what's going on. He shouldn't have gone into our jungle because he should have figured that I started on my red buff. So whenever I do finish my Gromp, Wolves, and then move into my bottom side jungle, it should theoretically all be there. Assuming it is, I'm going to get a massive advantage. I'll be nearly level 5 without even ganking anything. I'll be level 4 with 80 or 85% of the experience needed for level 5. So just going in for 1 gank at that point, I'll be level 5. Or I can just back and get my items at that time. This strategy is perfect if you're a power farm jungler, because you get an extra Krugs and you get a guaranteed scuttle since you're already there. If you are an early game pressure champion like Xin Zhao, Graves, or Jarvan, doing this jungle clear is actually going to hurt you in the long run, because you're supposed to be getting out ganks and putting out pressure. If you do this clear path, you're not really going to be ganking anything for the first 5 to 6 minutes of the game. This is mainly about getting yourself an experience lead and getting to level 6, because most power farm junglers play around level 6 like Master Yi and Shyvana. One final thing that I want to mention is this strategy is particularly strong in higher elo. In higher elo, it's more difficult to gank lanes. Whenever I say higher elo, I'm basically talking about Diamond 3 and up, or Challenger specifically. People know where the jungler is most of the time in those elos, and they can avoid you. So doing a strategy like this is good because it puts you ahead of the enemy jungler and it's very safe. With that being said, this strategy is definitely going to catch on and become very popular in higher elo. So I think top laners are probably going to start warding the Tri-Brush or warding the golems if they are on that side of the map to avoid having this happen. That is in the future. I don't think top laners have even caught on to that in higher elo yet. After finishing your Krugs, if you still have enough health and mana, depending on what champion you're playing, this will vary. If you're on Master Yi, you should still have plenty of health, but you will be lower on mana. And if you're playing a champion like Kayn, you'll probably have plenty of both. You could gank the enemy bot lane since you're already right on top of them, and you'll be at a higher level than them as well. In this case, Sivir is the same level as me because she's just one bot by herself, so she's farming the lane, she's getting the full amount of XP. But if this were in a real game, this would actually be a pretty good time to gank the enemy bot laner, assuming you don't think the enemy jungler is going to be here. For example, if you saw the enemy jungler mid or top around this time, this would be much safer. But if you figured he was in this area, I would recommend not doing it since you don't really have any items yet. Alright, it's time for Pro Clear number 3. This one you could use on a variety of different champions. It's fairly safe and it's fairly effective. It's the equivalent of the clear that junglers used to use before patch 8.10, where you used to do a buff, can't buff, and get level 3. This is basically the same thing. It's just all around a decent clear. So you're going to start off on your red buff. You could solo it if you want. Preferably your bot lane will leash you, or your top laner. Doesn't really matter. After red buff, go straight for your golems. Go ahead and use your smite on them. If you're not low on health, don't bother. Make sure you clear enough to get level 3 after scuttle. To do this, make sure you clear everything except for 4 little ones. Now you can still clear the 4 little ones. I'm just saying that you don't need to if you still want to get level 3. It's completely optionary. So here I just decided to go ahead and clear them. Since my W is up, I could do it really quickly. And now I'm going to go straight for the scuttle and get my level 3. After getting the scuttle, I could either gank bot lane or mid lane with level 3. If I feel like the enemy jungler started on his red buff, I could go on his jungler right now, take his blue Gromp Wolves. Especially if I saw him gank top lane right now and he didn't have blue buff, I could easily take his blue Gromp Wolves without any resistance. It just depends on what's happening right now. After Scuttle, you have a bunch of options. Plus, Scuttle gives you a lot of mana, so you should be able to gank bot, gank mid, or just take the jungle. If you're a tank jungler, I don't recommend this path because you'll have no way of really contesting the scuttle even after you finish your golems. If the enemy jungler happens to be there because he took a certain path, then it'll be unfortunate for you. This example right here is to show you what not to do. This also used to be a very popular clear path back before 8.10. You would start with your bot lane, get a leash, and then just clear all the way up to the top of your jungle to get the most XP possible. Right now, this is actually not a very good idea because the two camps that give the most XP right now are the Scuttle Crab and the Golems. By doing this path right here, you are going to be punishing yourself by denying yourself the 2 highest XP camps in the game, and you're also going to be giving up Scuttles for free if the enemy jungler feels so inclined to take both of them while you're doing this silly clear. So to do this really bad clear that used to be okay previously, you just do red Raptors, Wolves, blue, and Gromp. Once again, don't do this clear. If you're using any clear path that doesn't prioritize either Scuttle Crabs or Golems, it's not a good clear right now. Just don't do it. Make sure no matter what clear path you're doing, it either prioritizes Scuttle Crab, Golems, or both. The last jungle clear that I'm going to show you is specifically for Twitch jungle. However, you could use it potentially on Graves or Ezreal as well. This is especially effective in lower elo. Right after getting your red buff on Twitch, I go invisible before I round the corner typically, just in case it's warded. You get behind the enemy, you come in for the gank. In this case, Fizz pushed up, he had no idea what he was doing, and he actually ends up getting himself killed because he was greedy and didn't want to flash. So after picking up the kill on Fizz, I immediately run to the Scuttle Crab. It just spawned in at the 2-minute mark, and even if the enemy started on their red buff right now, I'm laying my ward just in case, but I think they started on their blue buff because of when the bot lane showed up. So I just went ahead and warded the Raptors, and it's also the path that they'll have to take to go to the red buff. So right now, if they go to the red buff, I'll see them, and if they go to the Raptors, I'll see them, and if they come for me on Scuttle, I will see them. This path is really good. I like it a lot on Twitch because it gives me a lot of experience. It's very quick. It's a pretty much guaranteed Scuttle Crab. And after doing one more buff, I would be level 3 since I got the 𝐒𝐿 That is going to wrap up this video. If you follow these pro jungle paths, depending on what champion you're playing, they really should increase your win rate substantially. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My name is KingStix. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.